Hey everybody, I'm Neil Horner, and welcome to Thursday Night Live. I want to start out tonight by sharing one of my new discoveries with you. Have you seen the website Awkward Family Photos? Lots of good fun to be had over there. Here are just a few that you might find in your travels around that site. Take a look at this one. Yikes. Yeah, whole lot of denim going on in that picture. We won't pause for too long. Let's go on to the next one. Yeah, the Matchy Poo outfits, circa 1974, I'm going to say. Wonderful stuff. This is one of my favorites coming up next here. You wonder what's going on with the picture, don't you? Can't tell if that's a sister or if that's the lady that used to be the mom, and now she's been replaced by the lady in red. Yikes, don't know what's going on there. Next, here's a good one. This one, I'm not sure if it's just a family photo or maybe a church directory photo, but everyone looks real happy in this one, don't they? You kind of get the impression that the daughter is saying, "Mom, when this photo is done, you and me are going to have it out." All right, these last couple are definitely some awkward church photos. From directory pictures. So here we go. The first one, the older girl looks pretty guilty to me, doesn't she to you? Of course, the baby's crying, and Dad has just got this look pasted on his face like, take the picture. Take it. Yeah, those are fun moments. Finally, one of my favorites, Dad came to the photo shoot, or husband came to the photo shoot on this day thinking it was only a from the chest up shot. So how do you like that? The white sports socks and the shorts with the suit. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm showing you these photos for a reason. I'm showing you these photos because tonight some of you are going to feel a little awkward. We are delving into a subject that is going to be a touch uncomfortable for some of you. If you're a lifelong church-going person, you're probably going to hear words tonight that you've never heard on any Sunday morning in church. And if you're joining us for the first time tonight, you might be tempted to think, "Oh my goodness, what a bunch of prudes. What's the big deal?" Tonight, we are talking about pornography addiction in part 2 of our addiction series. And we're talking about the effects that it has on men, women, children, teenagers, marriages, and more. So I'm going to take this moment to say, if you have kids sitting with you tonight, I'm going to encourage you just to hit pause and either wait till later, join us a little later tonight, or put on some Disney Plus for your kids, or just wait, get them a game to play, or maybe wait till they go to bed and join us then, because this conversation that we're going to have won't be appropriate for young kids. When I was in grade 6, we were on a field trip at school, piled onto a bus, heading somewhere to learn something. And a pack of boys started to gather around the seat in front of me, giggling, talking in hushed tones, and so I stood up to see what was going on. The kid in the seat ahead of me had a Playboy magazine. And as young boys, we were enthralled. To that point, I don't think I had any idea that this entire world even existed. The only way at that time to find pornography, though, was to go into a convenience store, find the magazines at the back of the magazine rack, leaf through it, hope no one was watching, awkward moments again. Or if you were going to buy, face the cashier, hand them the magazine. It was a little more difficult. Some places had movie rentals, and there was another kind of darker room off hidden in the corner that you could go to if you were old enough. And really only, the real pervs went in there, and they rented pornography on VHS video. It used to be a lot more challenging to get pornography, and now it can be in our homes in the fraction of a second through these things and these things. What does a person do with that? How do we heal from its effects? How can trust be rebuilt when pornography harms a marriage? How do we handle the temptation that it can bring? And how do we do all this now in the midst of COVID-19 lockdown? All of this is on the table tonight as I get the chance to talk to Sean and Helena Bonato from Halifax, New Brunswick. They're Halifax, Nova Scotia. They are founders of a ministry called Secret Habit, geared to help people who've been hurt by pornography or who are struggling with it or are addicted to it. For sure, this is uncomfortable for some of us to talk about, but uncomfortable does not equate unimportant. So let's take the cover off this dark world for a bit tonight. Here's my conversation with Sean and Helena Bonato. Sean and Helena, it is great to be with you today, and to have the chance to talk with you guys about your story is a privilege for all of us. And we just want to give you a warm welcome to Woodstock, all the way from Halifax.
Thank you. Yes. We met you, Neil, a few months back, and it's great to finally connect on something like this and connect with the Church of Woodstock Wesleyan. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Let's jump right in. We need to get to know you guys a little bit, and our viewers are wondering who in the world would ever start a ministry to help people struggling with pornography, right?
Good question.
Tell us your story. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and help our viewers get to know you a bit.
Yeah, so we'll share our stories, but just quickly, just so people don't know us as the porn people, we're Sean and Helena Bonato. I'm 27 years old. Helena's 24 years old. We love the outdoors. We're both very active people. I'm a diehard hockey fan. Of course, I'm Canadian. And for Helena,
yeah, I love horses, and I love the nature. And I actually, something interesting. You might hear a little bit of an accent, so. I'm just gonna make that clear. I'm not, I have a last name that is French, and now people think that I'm French, but that is leading you the wrong way. I'm from Czech Republic, so I came to Canada about 4 years ago. So, just to let you know a little bit of, where I come from. So that is where I come from. So the accent and,
Yeah. Yeah, so we're newer to the Maritimes. We moved here in June, and that'll be part of the story. But yeah, I'll just hop right into things, share my story. Helena will share hers, and then we'll tie it into how Secret Habit kind of came to be, so everybody kind of knows what we're talking about and why we're here, because God has called us and equipped us. So for myself, just to get right into things, Neil, I saw pornography at 10 years old. We see that the average age is between 8 and 11, so that just really lines up with the average. This was right around the time that the internet became more popular. Had a computer upstairs, so I had access in isolation. And this was a time in my life where my parents had become more emotionally distant. So I had a void in my heart. As a young boy, I found myself really never having someone ask me, like, Sean, how are you doing? And I found myself on the computer playing video games, finding things that I shouldn't find. And then what I realized is that, wow, these things make me feel good, and they became my best friend. So at a young age, I really let go of a lot of the things that matter to young kids, like doing well in school, having friends, playing sports, and pornography really became my hobby. I would watch it 3 times a day. I would masturbate. It was just a really dark hole. And it was that hole in my heart that was being filled for what I thought. And it wasn't years and years later that I started finding out what it was actually doing. But, there's many, many stories that tie into that. And if somebody wants to reach out at a further time, obviously we'll talk more about that. And there's videos online with more of our stories. But, just some of the things that happened to me growing up. I was a loner in high school because I was so ashamed. I really hated myself. I was embarrassed in public just to be seen by anybody, to be known by anybody, because I had this behind the curtain secret habit, and it ruined me. I remember growing up, and I wasn't a Christian growing up, so I didn't have that idea of what it was really doing to me. But there was always something in me that knew it was wrong. But it wasn't until I started testing the waters with sex. And I actually, at a young, ripe age of 18 or 19, I was struggling with erectile dysfunction. And, it's one of those things that a lot of people would never talk about at a young age. You think that, that's a thing that 70-year-olds struggle with. That's a thing that, must be a disease or something. But that actually happened to me because my brain was so messed up. The chemicals were all misfiring and I couldn't actually get an erection. And at a young age, as a young man, that's really scary. So I realized really quickly in that moment that this habit that I had was an addiction, and that it was much bigger than just me. It had affected the girlfriend I had at the time. It started affecting my job, my ambition, my purpose in life. I had troubles waking up in the morning because I would be up all night watching pornography. So my story is a lot of hiding, a lot of escaping, a lot of defeatism, just feeling like a failure all the time. And it bled into everything in my life. I had an ultimate fog that overwhelmed everything I did. And obviously we're talking to a church here, which is fantastic. And I can share my story of meeting the Lord. But I had tried everything I could to quit pornography, run away from pornography, put on a better image. So I ended up getting involved in the business world. I tried to buy nice clothing and do things that made me feel good and look good, and nothing worked. And I just came to this breaking point in my life. And this was before I even met Helena. I met the Lord, and it was so funny, I guess you could call it, as I went to church by myself one day, 700 people church, sat way in the back so I could hide. And the pastor was preaching on the church of Thyatira, sexual immorality. And God just, they say like he'll hit you with a metaphor or a 2x4. I think he hit me with both that day. And I was like, out of 700 people, I think I was the only guy excited about that message. And it was amazing. It was the first time I ever heard anybody speak about, you can get free from pornography. There is hope. There is an answer. And I felt ashamed, and I felt really paralyzed, but I felt this spring of life welling up inside of me. And I couldn't help after the sermon but go run up to the pastor and say like, hey, I need to talk to you. And that really began a journey in my life of finding the Lord and having a community around me that cared about me. I hate to say it, but getting baptized for me actually became a bit of a struggle, because here I am declaring my life to the Lord, but I have this hidden secret. And the church just hasn't done a good job of helping people get out of this secret life, talk about pornography. So that's why we so admire what you guys are doing, Neil. So found the Lord, and just long story short, fast forwarding, met Helena, her first day in Canada, kind of a crazy story. And God clearly had us meet for a reason. Tried to share with Helena a little bit about my addiction while we were dating. I mostly told her that I was doing great and I was getting healed, but I was lying all the time. That bled into our marriage. 2 months into marriage, I'm in the bathroom relapsing for the first time in marriage. I walk back to the bedroom, and there is this gift God has given me, this beautiful wife. And I chose a screen over this gift that God had given me. And I realized right there, I have a huge problem and I am terrified. So that really caused so much issues in our first year of marriage. I struggled as a single person, as a dating person, as an engaged person, as a married person. And all I knew how to do was lie and cover up. And I lied to Helena daily. I had mood swings. I was just frustrated with God all the time. And Helena ended up having this amazing opportunity to cast a vision for me. And I'll even let her share about that, because it's so cool to hear it from her. But she really spoke my language and allowed me to see what life would look like if I kept going down the path that I was going down. And it was about a month later, on my 25th birthday, that I just knelt before the Lord and said, God, I've tried to do this on my own. I've tried everything and it sucks. I need you so bad. Your strength is the only thing I can rely on. And that was really the day where things changed. I can't say that it got so easy, but my heart changed. I started relying on the Lord, and I started looking at my wife as she was the victim. I wasn't the victim. She was this beautiful woman that I married, God had given me. And then that's really what led us into this new season of life that we're in now, that I'll share a bit more after. But Helena's got an amazing story as well. I'd love to let her share that.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Son. My story is a little bit interesting, because I come from a little bit of I come from a background of being exposed to pornography myself as well, and struggling, and also being heartbroken. So that is something that is really interesting. And I believe, and there's a great book from Julie Slattery, and the belief that we all have been in some shape or form sexually broken in our lives, because we live in a broken world, but we are not talking about this. And so this is where it really comes from. Like in me, my whole life, there would never be a topic about sexuality or anything in my family, and I don't think in many people's family. And I think this is a huge problem. And when there's so much sexual brokenness happening around us, and there's no vulnerability around that. So what happened to me is I was really in search for love in my life. So from a really young age, I think I was about I was about 5. My mom started working in the States, so I was I would see her only 6 months at a time, and they really led me into this search for love. My dad was alcoholic, so I didn't see him. He would kind of lock himself in the garage. And so, like, I had a great childhood, but there were still things that, there are always problems in any family. But I was in this search for love, and I was looking and searching. And I remember, like, one time I stumbled upon pornography, and regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, if there is a sexual brokenness, and you are, I think God has a beautiful mind and beautiful ways for us to express our sexuality, but I think in that point I was just like, I was trying to navigate what sexuality is like, and I was really curious. And so therefore I find myself in this season of, like, that's what I was doing. Nobody has ever talked to me about it, and then you find yourself in high school, and then, like, everybody's talking about having sex, and then you think that basically what I've learned from pornography is I've learned that women is loved for her body only, and that actually the women in pornography example that they were peers to me. They were something that I thought that's if I want love, that's actually I have to basically sell my body. I have to, like, kind of, I can't say no, and all these things really created an example for me, and which is such a sad thing, because what do you think is going to happen if you have that in your mind? Well, what happened to me, I started making choices that were super detrimental for me, and that were super abusive. I found myself in abusive relationships, and I found myself so unsatisfied, and I didn't understand why. I just wanted love, and and even though you can be whatever pretty you want, but you will still find yourself in a cheating relationship. That still doesn't exactly, take your eye from that. And then you don't understand love at all. You're like, why is this happening? And so it has nothing to do with your beauty. It has nothing to do with your beauty, and it has nothing to do, because it's the sexuality is deeper than that. And that's something that I've realized, and I remember just being in this broken state, and I was find myself in a relationship that I was being abused, and then I broke up with this guy, and I was just didn't really understand what's going on. And anyway, long story short, I found Jesus when I was 17 or 18, and I was really, like, that was the first time I actually I finally found that perfect love that I was my whole life searching for. So that all the things that I was trying to avoid, this feeling of love that I was trying to find in sexuality and in sex or like that, because I thought if I give a man, then I'm going to receive love. That was what I thought that happens. And I would just had such a skewed mindset. I didn't understand. And then I met Jesus, and that totally changed my life, because he's perfect. He doesn't want me because of that. Like, he loves me, and he exemplified this perfect love for me that I'm searching for. So basically that made me to, I stopped watching pornography quite early on, from that point on. And then I met Sean, and basically when he shared with me that he was struggling with pornography, and, like, we were so in love, and we were like, this was this perfect story and everything, and and I had pink glasses on. I had no idea. Like, I thought that this is like, oh yeah, like, you just love Jesus, so, like, you're gonna get free the way I did, and it's just gonna be this easy. So I didn't really pay attention to that. I was like, well, but Sean was like an addict, like 10 out of 10. I was like 4 out of 10. So the biggest point in our lives really was like so there was the struggle, and then I found out that it's like bigger than this, because Sean just keeps hiding from me. And it's like, how can you actually be fully known and fully loved in a relationship if you are hiding your face behind a mask?
Right.
You can't. I wanted to see the true Sean with all his junk, but he didn't want him allow himself because of shame. And therefore there was this barrier between us because he was living behind a mask. And I was living behind a mask too. There was things I didn't want to share with him either about my past. Yeah. And so we're both living in the mask of, like, behind these masks, and then a prison. And until we truly took off the masks and we were willing to surrender, is that time that I was sharing that, what do you want? Do you want to live with porn for the rest of your life, how it's going to affect our kids? Or do you want to live without it? This is how our life can look like. And that surrender and that willingness is a key. That the taking the masks off and asking for help and having that's what changed for us.
Cool. Wow.
And that's where it leads us to today.
I get the sense this story is still unfolding too, but there's so much to tell.
Yeah.
I guess I want to back up a sec and just say to all our listeners, like, we don't do a great job of this in the church. We're shy to talk about subjects like sex, pornography. I can't think of a time I heard someone talking about masturbation, erectile dysfunction, those things, like, and the effects that these things have. And so I'm proud of you guys for not when you stopped hiding from each other, that you allowed God to bring this right out in the open and say, we're not going to hide it from anyone who wants to hear and wants help. So that's what we're doing here tonight. But no one came to listen to me. So let me ask you guys about Secret Habit.
Yeah.
When did that start? What is it like? And what's a day look like for you guys in that role, in the different roles that you play?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Secret Habit is basically a parachurch ministry that is a division of Open Door Center based in Halifax. So we're a donor-driven ministry that focuses on helping people heal from the harmful effects of pornography, as well as heartbreak from a partner that would be struggling from pornography. So Secret Habit started very humbly. It was about 3 months after I had quit pornography. I just started seeing, and both of us, we just started seeing that life was already different. Our intimacy, the way we looked at each other, the way we prayed, as everything started becoming better. It's like the fog had lifted, the veil was shattered, and we just thought, wow, this is really incredible. And I really felt the Lord saying, Sean, I want you to start writing about your story of recovery. And I started writing, and it was going well. I thought I would write a book or something. And then Helena had shared, like, hey, like, there's so many blessings and benefits that are coming from you quitting. It's really hard to find anything out there that talks about the beauty of quitting pornography. There's so much out there about the harms of pornography and why it's bad and why it's sin, but there's really not a lot of, like, you can run to something so beautiful. That would be the inspiration. We're not avoiding as much as we're running towards something better. So Helena was really encouraging me to start writing about that. And then I felt God say, Sean, I want you to start sharing about this struggle and this story. So funniest story is I'm getting a haircut, and the guy asked me what I do for work. And for whatever reason, I told him I'm writing a book about porn addiction. And that was the moment I had zero shame about what I said. I was excited, and I just thought, wow, God's calling me. I've always wanted to help people. I've never known how to. And this seems like the way God's calling me. So fast forward from there, Helena made me a website. It was SeanBonato.com, so very humble beginnings. And we just started making YouTube videos and blogs, and people liked it. So they asked us to speak and do some stuff online and mentor them. And it just slowly started to build, and we started asking ourselves, how do we do this in a bigger way for the Lord? word. And, you know, we branded it a secret habit. God put Halifax on Helena's heart. We had a chance to start thinking about moving. And then we ended up getting an opportunity to go to Lebanon, of all places. And we went to Lebanon and did basically a 5-day speaking circuit where we spoke to 4 high schools. We did a training session for 60 youth leaders in the Christian world and just trained them on how to help youth going through porn addiction. Wow. And that was a wake-up call for us. It really made us aware that this is what God wants us to do. So, you know, we moved to Halifax. We have all these ideas of how it's going to look, and God changed everything. He introduced us to Open Door Center. They brought us on staff, and we had no idea that's how it was going to look. So today, that's where we are at. We are working with Open Door Center. We fund our own salary. We came on staff with a commitment that we would just say, hey, God, we trust you with everything. And a day-to-day for myself, I'll let Helena share what she does on a day-to-day, but for myself, I mentor men through pornography addiction and struggle. Right now, I'm developing a pornography awareness presentation for churches, the community, and for schools. We also do a lot of social media stuff. We do all the marketing, all the admin. We do everything ourselves. So it's just a really grassroots ministry that we know God's called us to. So we have the fire for it. We know God's equipped us, but we also stay humble, knowing that we're just, you know, wretched people doing what we can. So what do you do on a daily basis, honey? She's got more clients than I do. She's kicking butt.
No, well, I would rather not be kicking butt, and this would not have to be a problem. But yeah, I think, it's the same thing that Sean, you know, like it's the people that really, I think one of the things that might be surprising, but there's the most heartbreaking people are actually the women in the church that are the wives and the loved ones of the ones that are struggling with pornography. And there was no voice for those women. And so I am trying to be a voice for those who are voiceless in this, and really for them to know that they're not alone. So that's the women I'm helping, and also women that are struggling with pornography themselves. So the women that, you know, that also find themselves alone in pornography, thinking like, oh, like I'm such a shameful person, or that's only my problem, and I don't know how to navigate my sexuality. So those women, those ones would be the ones that I'm helping, and I have a huge heart for.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Practically speaking, how do you help somebody who's addicted to pornography? Is there a kind of a set series of steps? What's the help look like that you guys offer?
Yeah, it's a loaded question for sure. And we always encourage people to reach out, because we do believe that it's specific to people's situations for their root causes and their root issues. But I think the first thing we hear all the time is you got to get out of denial. We got to accept that this is an addiction, even if it's once a week, and you have to do it once a week. That's an addiction. So first step is getting out of denial. We talk a lot about getting into the root wounds, because it's our past that actually controls our future. It's all the things that's happened in our past that we're not aware of, or maybe we are aware of, but we're stuffing away. It causes so much friction in our life today. I heard a great quote. It said, porn is the fruit, pain is the root. And we need to get below the surface and understand that pain, and have someone like Helena and I, or a counselor or a professional, help you through that with learning forgiveness and learning some of the steps and understanding what triggers you, what sets you off. So those are some of the key things. Would you add anything to that, hon?
Yeah, I would just add one thing. I think this is a problem between Christians and the idea of like this is the idea. Like, we are holding a candle that is like burning, and it's, you know, the sap is called the wax is going on our hands, and it's burning us. Like, it's burning us, and we're like, God, help me, like, take away this candle. And like, God is like, just drop it. But we are still holding on and think like, I just need to pray harder and ask God to take this candle away while I'm holding on to it tightly, and it's burning my hands. So I don't want, like, this is the biggest problem that I see that with pornography is this idea, like, and with anything that we have in our lives, it's like we're holding on to this candle and we're saying, God, please make it take a miracle. When we just need to drop the candle and ask God, and start a healing process on those wounds that have been so deep rooted in our everywhere. So that's my belief, and that's the beginning stage, and it does not happen. It's 2 to 5 years process to rewire the brain from pornography. If you watch something for 15 years, 12 years, do you expect that it's just gonna your brain is just gonna, it just does not happen like that. So just the reality that it takes patience, and that God takes us on this journey, and that it's not that's his miracle, this journey of healing, instead of all that's the sudden, the candle is gone. There are consequences. So yeah, just wanted to encourage in that, just dropping the candle is the first step.
You said earlier you go into schools and have been there to share this message. What do you say to teenagers about this?
Yeah. Unfortunately, with COVID, we haven't been able to go into the schools, but we have, of course, and we will be. So with Open Door, we've been doing a couple different presentations on human trafficking and healthy consent, helping people understand boundaries and respect. So what would we say to a teenager? Well, yeah, I actually wanted Helena to share about this one, because she has a great story and some tips on that.
Yeah, I think when I was going back to, I think I would come back to, again, seeking the love and belonging. We all, when we were kids, and I want to relate, because I don't want to tell you that you're bad and that this is what you're doing is bad. I actually want to tell you that there's so much more for you, and that where you're trying to seek love and belonging is gonna leave you much worse off, and is never gonna fulfill what you're truly looking for, what you're truly, your heart's desire, is just gonna leave you so empty. And all I am saying is, it might seem normal, it might seem like, the people around me, because that's what I thought too, my friends are having sex, and they are, doing all these things, and they're watching pornography too, but I want you to know, okay, where are your friends at? If you truly look at their life, if you truly look at where do you want to see yourself? Because we can't be driven by our fears, but we can be motivated by love, and we can be motivated to actually experience true love and belonging. But where you're searching it right now is not where you're going to find it.
Yeah, we also really like to use our story, because we're really just living examples of what happened as teenagers when we went down the path of pornography and abusive relationships and trying sex and all these things, and it just never worked. So we use our story as a real way to bridge the gap. And a lot of teenagers think they know everything, so we always say you can't argue with our story. So here we are.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm wondering, how do you convince somebody, at any age, not just teenagers, but any age, because I think there is a mindset that, hey, it's porn, it's out there, everybody looks at it once in a while, it's normal. There's probably people that think it's part of a marriage relationship, and that can work okay too. How do you convince people that not only is this wrong, but it's harming them?
Yeah, such a good question.
Yeah, I love this question, because that's where I was. And I really would want to look at that person, talk to that person, and I would want to ask, honestly, look at your life right now, and can you be completely honest with me and say that into my eyes, that it is normal and healthy, and it has not affected your life in a negative way? Can you tell me that you choosing pixels over a real relationship has no negative effect on you? We cannot, and we cannot know light when we don't know darkness, right? And so denial can keep us stuck, and it can make us feel, if we have an excuse, it's almost like We want to excuse that there's a mold in the house that is infecting us. We want to excuse that there is a mold that we're just kind of stepping over the carpet. We see the mold a little bit, but we're just kind of pretending like that is okay. Like we think that the mold, we're trying to justify that having a mold in the house is fine. That's basically what we're doing. And so the problem with that is, not the problem, that the reality that we need to do is actually to rip whatever is it under the mold and look at the reality, how it's actually affecting our whole house and infesting the whole place.
Yeah, what effects do you see that pornography has on a marriage relationship? You talked about hiding earlier, I think was one of them. But what else? What else have you seen in your story and the people that you work with?
Yeah, we can break that down to husbands and wives, and as the relationship, even just people dating. But I think the reality is we see relationships just really stuck in a fog. There's something about pornography that it rewires the brain, and that's a whole nother subject and something we can touch on. But when the brain gets rewired, it fogs our mind. So we can't even accept the love of Christ in the way that we're called to. How can we accept and love somebody that's a human like we're meant to? So, as a husband or a boyfriend, talking to the males here, it's like we are called to really great things. Like we're called to resemble Christ. So when we look at pornography, it really is poisoning the mind and turning our minds and hearts towards the enemy. Like pornography is the enemy's plan. It's actually slavery on screen. It's what leads to sex trafficking. So that is clearly the enemy's plan. So we see that if we don't have men that are breaking free and taking things seriously, that's why we're in a crisis, like a fatherless society. So we talk a lot about like men need to lead their families. They need to set an example for their kids, because without that, like we are just going to continue going through this world that's broken and painful. So we see as men, there's a lot of men just not leading anymore because of pornography. There's a lot of men that feel like hypocrites in the church because of pornography. And it's just really, really scary, because men are called to such great things. We're called to be the head. We're called to love our wives like the church. And it's so, so amazing what's available. But this generation just doesn't seem to get it, because porn has become a norm, because we live in a sexual culture. So I like to raise the bar and help people see what they're made to be, rather than say like, oh man, you're just sitting in the mud and you got to get out of there. It's like, man, look what you can be. So it affects relationships, because men aren't being men. And it's clear that men are meant to do great things. Yeah.
I think just wanted to touch on like the what's happening in a marriage in terms of wives. And yes, like I was saying, like that was something that was my problem as well, with that I've had pornography in my life. But then this reality is, okay, you have somebody that you might be free, and then you are living with somebody that is addicted. And the reality is, okay, in this time, what happens is, if in an unconsensual way, basically somebody is whatever the vows has been made are broken now, right? And there is a real trust issues and a brokenness of trust for the women, because there is a constant lying and hiding. So what do you think is gonna create in the marriage? That's why it has such a high percentage of divorce rate. The reason is pornography. And I want to also stress this, that there's something called betrayal trauma now that a woman experiencing as they are partners of the sex addicts. And the reality is those women are neglected in the church because they feel like they are going crazy, when they are actually not going crazy. They are traumatized over and over and over and over and over and again. After all the promises, after all the things, and they are honestly being traumatized by the basically lies that are happening in a relationship. And the trauma is that deep that it can feel like somebody close to you just died. That's literally how these women are feeling. And I want to just stress this, because it doesn't have an effect just on the person who is addicted. It has an effect on the loved ones around him, around around her. So that is just the reality of what pornography does. Women are not talking about this enough because they're feeling ashamed that they, it's like, oh, like they have to be supportive of the husband trying to go through a healing and stuff, while they themselves are so feeling silenced and don't know where to go with their feelings.
Yeah, and there's one other really interesting issue that's in the society today is we have a lot of sexless marriages. Like God created sex. He's the genius behind the penis and the vagina, and he created pleasure and all these things that we're afraid to talk about. And we have marriages that have sex once a year.
That's right.
And it's because of things like pornography. We're meant to be one flesh, to draw together, to be selflessly giving to the other mate, but we're not because of a screen and slaves on that screen. And when you actually say it out loud, it's really bizarre to say that out loud and say, wow, I'm choosing a screen over my wife. I'm choosing whatever. It's just, we have a sexless society. A lot of people are just roommates. So we see like that's one of the biggest effects on relationships is that people aren't intimate anymore.
Yeah. And the wives want to be intimate. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not actually about, oh, like my wife. No, she wants it. It's like there's something in between that going on. So that's just the reality of I want to just share that is what's going on.
Shifting directions here just a little bit. Why is it important to talk about this right now during COVID-19?
Yeah, well, we were actually discussing this a lot lately. I think one of the biggest things is that, yes, you're going to hear that it's a stressful time. It's an anxious time. People have more time. It's boredom. But the reality is we go throughout our days before the pandemic and we have events. We have things on our agenda. We're busy. And we often don't have the time to stop and slow down and realize how much we rely on things that are, creating bondage in our life. We now have days that are full of just staying at home. Maybe we're working from home. Maybe we're just off of work. And for a porn addict, you might be at home right now watching porn all day, every day because you can. But before, you would only do it at night because your day was busy. So what the pandemic has actually done is it has allowed us to reflect on what actually causes our life to be in a fog, to not go well, to really distance us from the Lord. So I think the pandemic has been a beautiful thing to help us realize how broken we really are, how quickly we really move, and how addicted we are to things like the sexual culture. I always say, pull up your Instagram right now, go through your news feed, go through your scroll, and you'll see 10 things that probably would have been pornography back in the 70s. But you think it's normal because of this sexual culture we live in. That's constant temptation in your life. And if people are on Instagram all day, every day right now, they're being tempted 24/7. So yes, anxiety, stress, all those other things. But I think it's just the reality that we all have more time to realize, holy smokes, I do this all day, every day, and I don't know how to stop.
Right. Yeah. Let's shift back to the marriage relationship again. And this is a long process, as you described. I loved how you talked about rewiring the brain, Helena. And I think you're absolutely right. We expect that if I'm gonna set this aside, I'm gonna confess this, it's wrong, and I should be able to move on. And it doesn't seem to happen for people. It's easy for them to get frustrated. How do couples heal, and how do they rebuild trust? How do you guys at Secret Habit help come alongside of them to do that?
Yeah, it's really good. Elena's got a great analogy of a garden that I always
She's
love.
good. She's got the candle, she's got the carpet with the mold, and now she's got the garden.
She's the secret sauce, the secret habit.
Some people remember, right? Like, I don't remember, I remember pictures. And yeah, I just, like, rebuilding trust is such a funny thing, but like, the reality is, like what I said, is the first step is to get out of the denial and take off the masks that you're both wearing is the first step you can do. And the second step is to start asking for help. Like, there's no shame in that. Like, the shame is actually in keeping this a secret, and it's actually like, it takes time, but it's worth it. You know what I like to say? It's like, it's actually harder to not, it's actually harder to live with pornography than harder to quit. And so just with the trust, what you were asking, I like to use these analogies, like my trust or anybody's trust is like this beautiful place. Like we have trees there, and we have this garden of flowers, and everything is lushing. Is this special place that we have, and there's streams, and you can just imagine it's a great place that you treasure, and you have fence around it. And you only allow certain people. And so, like, if let's say I trust Sean, I allow him in, and I give him the key to that. I leave the door open. He can walk out anytime, because I don't want to lock him in. He's just, that's how we trust. And I trust him that he won't destroy my flowers and this place that I treasure. But then, Sean is, or anybody that, breaks the trust, might start, like, especially with sexuality, with pornography, it's like you start looking at over the fence and start looking at different gardens, start looking at, as he's looking at, he's stepping all over the stuff that is around my garden, and the garden is a mess, and suddenly I see him leave, and I am left there, and maybe I didn't see him doing that, but I see the damage. I see the garden there's something not right. And he comes back after and is like, I promise I won't do this again, and blah blah. And then and he do this like 100 other times. Well, and he never helps me rebuild the garden. What do you think is gonna happen? Right? I'm gonna stand in front of the gate and be like this is my special place. Like, and I want, actually, how it is the sincerity of that person's heart within any trusted relationship, because trust is earned. It's not something that is just suddenly happen. Trust is earned. So it's not just that you walk in and just pretend like nothing happened. It's you take the stuff, you do whatever you can to start rebuilding the flowers back again. Because it wasn't me who stepped on those flowers, and I don't want to condemn you, but okay, you need to take your stuff and start planting the flowers if you care about this garden.
And some of those steps would be, character development is probably more important than just doing a bunch of things. A lot of times guys just want to do a bunch of things. They want to lust manage. They want to go to these groups. They want to do, but they don't become. So for the man struggling, it's about becoming that man that God made you to be, and showing your wife that you can be trusted. It's being honest. It's journaling. It's being in the Word with the Lord. It's taking time alone to pray and go for prayer walks and take wellness days and go out and just develop your character. That is what is noticeable. Doing and doing and doing. Yes, like, that's good stuff. You need to have a mentor. You need to get help. You need to do things like read the right books and have podcasts and rewire the mind. But the character development is what is really what drives women to say, wow, my husband is changing, and I can actually see him as a man that I would love to trust again.
It's the sincerity of the heart that is really what changes. And we know when our men are not sincere, or when anybody, I'm sure your trust has been broken. And what would you want for you? Like, I'm sure you want to see a sincere heart and somebody wanting to rebuild this trust.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I hate saying this. I can't believe it. Our time is kind of getting away on us here, but maybe just a couple more things if we could. How does Jesus specifically enter into this discussion and enter into our mess with us and bring freedom?
Yeah.
How is this different from just like white knuckles, I'm not going to do this again?
Yeah, we believe that sobriety is available in the world without Jesus, and freedom is available with Jesus. And it's a personal story for me, because when I finally quit, it was the first time I had surrendered to the Lord, and he really brought the picture of the cross to my mind. And we don't talk about the cross enough in the church. We talk about it on Good Friday, but we don't actually often talk about the two criminals and the centurion who was killing Jesus, and how Jesus prayed for the people killing him, and looked at this criminal with no questions asked and just said, "You will be in paradise with me." And if we as addicts can see ourselves as that criminal, and all we really have to do is say, "You are Lord, and I surrender to you," Jesus meets us in the depths of our brokenness. We could be hanging on a cross beside Jesus, and he would say, "I love you." And as addicts, we just don't believe that, but we have to. So Jesus literally meets us in the grossest, most scumbag times of our life. And as addicts, I'm using that verbiage because we believe we are scumbags. We do not like ourselves, but Jesus loves us. So he has the strength when we don't have any. He has truth when there is none in the world. Like, these are things you probably hear, but you need to learn how to experience it. The Bible is a book. Jesus is a person. How do we learn to experience Jesus? Well, it's actually sitting with him and asking him questions. Jesus, what kind of man do you want me to be? Jesus, how much do you love me? Like, actually just asking questions and sitting with your Father. We just read scripture so often and it doesn't penetrate. But when we actually learn how to talk to our Father, our Savior, and realize what he did for humanity, including us, that brings such a sense of freedom. So my encouragement to addicts is to learn how to experience the love of Jesus, because we often just believe him. We don't know him.
Boy, that's good. That's good.
Praise the Lord. It's good. He's good.
Is there anything else we haven't covered today that you would like to share? And how can people learn more, reach out to you if they're looking for help, and so on?
Yeah, I would just share one thing real quick there, Neil, for everybody watching. This struggle is not your fault. We're all programmed by a sexual society. You are not alone. And our brain is a machine. So when we have things go in, it starts to program our brains. And unfortunately, at young ages nowadays, we all see sexual content, and that's what rewires our brain early on. And by the time we're 18, 19, 20, we're already sexual addicts without knowing it. So I just wanted to share, it's not your fault. We understand where you're at, and the brain is a powerful machine that can be used for good, it can be used for evil. And when we pray for a miracle from the Lord, we often say, as at Secret Habit, we say the miracle is the brain, because God said you can rewire it. So we want to encourage you that you're in good hands with the Lord. We are here to help. And at Secret Habit, you can check us out online at our website, which is secrethabit.ca. We're on social media at Secret Habit Ministry, on YouTube and all the places. We also just want to reach out and say, if you're addicted to pornography, if you're heartbroken from someone who is addicted to pornography, we can help you. We can do an intro call and get to know you better and see who might be the best fit to help you. We do have a network of other resources and mentors and counselors that we have. So we always want to make sure we find the best fit for somebody. So reach out and let us know your story. But also, if you're somebody who's listening to this and you say, wow, I care about people that are struggling, we are donor funded, and you could be a part of our team and help us to help more people. When we go into the school and you vote with your dollars to say, Secret Habit, I want you to go into that school and impact them, because a lot of schools can't afford our services. A lot of people can't afford our services when we mentor them. So you're saying, yes, I want people to get free from pornography. Please let us know if you want to partner with us, pray with us, volunteer with us. We would love to hear from you. Our emails are on our website, and connecting with us. We love people. We'd love to get to know you guys better, and we're just so grateful for the opportunity to speak, Neil. Thank you so much for inviting us, man.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Guys, this has been great. I could very easily see us having another chat sometime, because I feel like we're just getting started. So thank you for sharing your story with us today, for being vulnerable with us today, for maybe making us a little uncomfortable with some of the things that were shared. We need that. And thanks for the hope that you brought to the table tonight to give to people who need it. We've been just encouraged, and we'll share all the links, all the specific things that you mentioned at the end about supporting. And to our listeners, if you're interested in doing that, just make sure you stick around, follow the links afterwards to get to Secret Habit and to learn more about Sean and Helena. Thank you so much, guys. It's been great. Take care.
Take care. God bless.
What a great chat with Sean and Helena. I hope you're encouraged by that. And I hope they gave you some things to think about, and some hope if you're struggling tonight. This is a subject that is just shrouded in so much shame and so much guilt, but isn't it great to meet a couple who is willing to just bring the subject right out on the table, into the open, where we can deal with it? It's unbelievable to think of the effects that pornography has on our brains. It actually, Helena was telling us that it actually rewires our brains. And so it's no wonder, as she said, that the healing process can take months or years. And that's not a reason to be hopeless. That's a reason to, like she said, to let go of the candle and to reach out, as she and Sean both shared with us so much. I'm reminded tonight that what seems impossible with man is possible with God, because nothing is impossible with our God. If you're struggling tonight, let me encourage you. If you're a guy, reach out to Sean. He is more than willing to talk with you, would love to help you out. If you're a girl and you're struggling with pornography, or maybe you're struggling with betrayal, reach out to Helena. She'd love to talk with you as well. You can find them at secrethabit.ca or any social media platform. Maybe you don't think you're addicted, but I want to tell you, you don't have to wait until you've reached the bottom to reach out. Friends, we're with you in this struggle that we call COVID-19. We're with you in this struggle that we call life. We here at Woodstock Wesleyan want to be a support and encouragement and a place where you can find hope. If we can pray for you, please shoot us a line at care@woodstockwesleyan.org. We'd love to pray with you. And I want to tell you about what's happening next week. Jill Whitehouse is going to join us next Thursday night. Jill's a health coach with Live Well, Bien Vivre in New Brunswick. And we're going to have a chat with her about taking care of our physical health during this season, when some of us are off work and sitting in Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. Maybe feeling anxious, maybe feeling bored, stressed, and maybe eating a few too many chips. I hope you'll tune in with us next Thursday night, 7 o'clock, right here again. So glad you joined us tonight. If you don't have a church you call home, we'd love to have you join us online this Sunday morning at 10:30. We hope to see you there. Thanks for coming.